This is a paid advertisement brought to you by BetterHelp Therapy Online. Guys, it's hard to believe summer is over, and in a few months I will be a married man. Now, lest I descend into the illusion that life will just be a walk in the park thereafter, I do think it's important to check in on myself when things get busy and to keep an eye on the old head. Regular listeners to this podcast or readers of my book will know that I'm extremely passionate when it comes to opening up about our struggles and asking for help before things get to a crisis stage. For years, I let things build up internally and would only ever talk about stuff when it got bad. Nowadays, going to therapy helps me find balance in aspects of my life that I never knew I could before. So, if you're interested in starting therapy but don't know where to start, perhaps give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. Just fill out a short questionnaire and they'll match you with one of their therapists. Rediscover your curiosity at betterhelp.com/Mehigan and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Mehigan, MEHIGAN.
GoLoud.
Welcome back to the Weekly Roast. How's it going, guys? How the hell are you? How are your hearts? And of course, how are your heads? Guys, what's going on? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing okay on this Wednesday morning or whenever it is that you're listening to the show. The grey skies of winter have started to descend again and I can feel it. I can feel it like a cloak. This grey... Do you remember last year, like there was like 7 months of it, you know? 7 months of just endless, colourless grey. I can feel it falling down on top of me again, all over me, mauling me, pawing at my neck like an overzealous one-night stand in the backseat of a taxi, clutching to my nape. There you go, Kieran, just a little bit of weather. Poetic weather, poetic fallacy. Nevertheless, welcome back to the Weekly Roast. Guys, how are you? I hope genuinely from the bottom of my heart that you are doing well in yourself at the moment. Now look, I am so grateful to all of you for listening to the show. It's episode 33. It is a phenomenal journey that we're on together. And I know the word journey is the worst one in the modern lexicon, but I do appreciate all of your support. If you are enjoying the show, the greatest way you can show me some love is by sharing it with a friend of yours or leaving a nice review. Furthermore, if you're enjoying it, please send me a message on Instagram at MehiganMark with any suggestions on what you would like roasted next. It's silly season is fast approaching. Not only am I getting married, but also Christmas is going to be occurring. There are lots of opportunities for us to roast things. So if you have any suggestions on what you'd like to be thrown into the oven, let me know at MehiganMark on Instagram. And if you're just enjoying the show, I love hearing about it. I love hearing where you listen to the show, etc., etc. DM me. Okie doke. Now that we've gotten the housekeeping out of the way, it's time to move on to this week's episode. Actually, do you know what? Just last but not least, I went to see John Bishop on the weekend. Never meet your heroes, guys. It was spectacularly bad. And I've seen a lot of bad stand-up comedy in my day. It was potentially the worst stand-up show I've ever seen in my life. If any of you were there, let me know what your thoughts were. And if anything, it sort of almost gave me the kick up the arse to maybe go... in the spring of 25, will I dust off the live shoes again and do a run of shows, maybe write a new show because, I have a very inconsistent relationship with live performance for a number of reasons. But after Saturday night, I'm sort of thinking, do you know what, Mehigan, you need to... I don't speak to myself in the third person. That's just for the sake of the pod. But yeah, lots to think about. Whilst we think about that, let's get into co-workers, colleagues, infuriating people that you're forced to spend time with on a 9-to-5 basis. I'm here with my trusty, thirsty milk baby, Kieran. How are we, boy? Place your mouth away from my nipples for a second and speak for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back to the Weekly Roast, my friends. It's infuriating, colleagues. Let's go.
Hey, Mark. So there's a guy that I work with. He's really in a position of power. where when we're in meetings, sometimes he takes the lid off the biro, or he takes the lid off a pen, and he cleans the wax out of his ears in the middle of the meeting. And like he actually like examines the wax in the meeting. He doesn't just like do it a little bit, like, you know, like put his finger in his ear. This guy literally does a full-on examination of the wax in the middle of the meeting, and it is disgusting. Like sometimes it's gooey wax. Sometimes it's dry. It's disgusting. And like, because he's in a position of power, like no one can say anything. So we all just like gag or talk about behind his back.
Okay, few things to get into here, Kieran. First things first, that came in from a woman called Crystal Bodega. So that is a banana's name. Nevertheless, on we go and in we go into the ear canal. This is depraved. It is, as Kieran, as my dear listeners might say, derangement levels of just somebody say something. Hey, Damien, would you stop doing that, please? I'm about to get sick. Thank you. We didn't need the description of the various forms of wax. Speaking of wax museums.
What a side note.
What a very... the obvious segue, Kieran. Wax museums... You have to question the sort of frontal lobe of a person who finds it entertaining to visit wax museums. Oh, so what you got up to the weekend? Went to London. Did you, yeah? How'd you get on? Oh, man, some city. It is, isn't it? What did you do? Did you go to the London dungeons? Did you look at the history of Parliament, Guy Fawkes? You know, what did you... No, I paid 27 snids to go to Madame Tussauds in Leicester Square and get my photo taken beside a 6-foot figurine that mildly sort of looked like Johnny Depp, like vaguely resembled Freddie Mercury. Fan of the arts? Okay, I know I'm a pretentious asshole, but still, like, that is... Nevertheless, on we go.
Hey, Mark. So, yeah, I work with a lady who has long talons. I think they're acrylics. Could store a lot of food underneath them. And sits in the canteen at break time and lunchtime and picks whatever has collected throughout the day under her nails and just flicks it on the table or flicks it wherever she feels like she wants to. Look, it has put me off my food, and so I've lost a few pounds because it makes my stomach turn so every cloud and all that.
Oh my God. Again, it's just so disgusting. You have to be able to say something to someone in this situation. Una, hiya. Firstly, your nails are cartoonish and very inappropriate at the National School of Penis Tree. Do you know what I mean? So... Like, do you know what really annoys me? You know, when people do those Insta stories to show off a product and they do the nails. What is that like? Really winds me up. Now, guys, I just want to caveat before I play this one. If you have a sensitive soul, heart or mind, perhaps you shouldn't listen. Turn the other cheek, because that's not the appropriate context for that phrase. But I just wouldn't advise listening to this, as it is fairly grotesque. Nevertheless, let's go.
So I was in work before, and this one guy who we worked with, it was predominantly female staff. We had a couple of guys working with us, but this one guy in particular, I was in work and I was like, guys, my lips are absolutely bone dry. I was like looking for Vaseline. I was like, has anyone seen my Vaseline? Like, my lips are absolutely bone dry. He swiveled around in his chair, pointed at my crotch and said, which ones?
No.
Too stunned to speak, obviously, at the time. We kind of laughed it off, but looking back, it's not great, is it? Also, this same guy, one day he was drinking from his water bottle with the full cap and everything in his mouth. And I was like, why are you drinking your water like that? And he took the bottle away and goes, I'm imagining it's your tits. And then proceeded to drink it again, like that. Just absolute wild ban.
This is... the latter, absolutely sexual harassment, so shouldn't be made fun of or made light of in any capacity. The first, and by the way, because that's always the joking, it's always only having a laugh. It was me and my bloody hands. It's just part of my personality. I just like having a bit of a laugh in the elevator. God, you can't do anything these days. Yes, you can. Nevertheless, the first one, the dry lips, that is spectacular in its vulgarity. That is the Grand Canyon of vulgarity. That is like the head nod towards the minge. Like it's a separate entity to the person herself. Like as if it's like a shy animal hiding between her legs. Do you know what I mean? Like that is... My lips are dry. Which ones? Good stuff. That is a 2-word career ender right there. That is a double syllable shoot to kill. I just don't give a... Like, that is a true example of somebody who does not give a fuck. And by the way, that's fine. But enjoy the P45, mate, because you clearly can function in a modern work environment, or dare I say, it's society. Like, the fact that it even goes to his head. Oh, my lips are dry. Which ones? Why would that turn you on, by the way? Oh, my downstairs lips, Kenneth. The ones down on my vaginal lips. They're the ones that are dry because I have to sit beside you and your fucking Dorito breath all day and look at you doing accumulators when you should be doing your job. You gobshite. This next one is a good one. Okay, the next one, we're moving away from body parts, finally. And we're getting into a good one. Let's go.
There's a lad that I work with who has a Nerf gun on his desk and goes around the office trying to shoot over people's coffee cups or water bottles. And anytime he hits one, he looks around for approval, laughing. Nobody else in the office thinks this is any way weird. I'm the only one who both finds it incredibly annoying and also really weird.
I love this because I know so many people who are exactly like the Nerf gun shooter in this instance. I mean, he's clearly a jock. That's, you know, the jocks just need to sort of gamify everything. Everything needs to be a competition in some, like, for those of you who didn't go to a rugby playing school or, you know, spend your life being surrounded by the sort of meat-headed man, I remember working in an office very, like, fresh out of school. It was between, maybe I was 19 or something. It was between, I was back from Brighton before I'd sort of settled again in Dublin for, you know, a few weeks. But I was working with this guy who was like a complete meathead, right? And I know you're listening to this going, but that's you, Mark. And in fact, that's not true, okay? I loiter somewhere in the in-between, okay? Too much of a nerd for the jocks, too much of a jock for the nerds. Nevertheless, this guy that I worked with, he, like, you give a jock an inch and they'll just exploit that. Do you know what I mean? So I remember on, like, my first week, I casually, I don't know what it was, but I, like, vaguely mentioned to somebody that I enjoyed apple pie. Literally the next day. How many tarts have you had this week? Sorry? How many fucking apple tarts have you hammered this week then, Mr. Kipling? What? How many Battenbergs have you deep-throated in the car park this morning? Sorry? I don't. All right, kippers. Any angel slices on the loose? No. Like, any Vietnamese swirls? They're definitely not Vietnamese. It's Viennese. Any lemon drizzle case down your chin? No. And that sounds sexual. Do you know what I mean? Jocks, you give them... I spoke about this before, but I went to school with this guy. Do you know the way jocks, like, remember the past very differently to how it actually was? So, like, they think that school was just all a bit of a bit of fun. You know what I mean? And all of the atrocities that they committed, you know, that was all just a bit of a laugh, and everybody was involved in the joke. Much like... I know. No, we can't. But, like, I remember meeting this guy about 3 years out of school. I was back in Dublin, right? Christmas. You know the stress on Christmas. You're trying to get all your Christmas shopping done. You're like, how many body wash, shower gel kits can I purchase last minute? And I meet this guy. I'm not going to tell you his name, but his name was Michael Bailey. And I was like, oh no, it's Michael Bailey, as I see him coming, because he reminded me of my youth. And I was like, how's it going, Michael, you all right? Yeah, just doing a bit of last minute Christmas shopping, is it? Yeah, it is, yeah. You getting stuff for the bird? No, I don't have a girlfriend. Are you gay? No. Why is that the immediate reaction to somebody? Anyway, and he was like, oh man, fucking having some laugh thinking about school there the other day. Were you? Yeah, what was the... Yeah, do you remember the time we jocked your man Shane O'Keefe and threw him into the girls' jacks on his bicycle? That was fucking hilarious. That was you, Michael. You did that. And it wasn't funny at all. And it wasn't a bicycle. It was a wheelchair. This is completely... You are misremembering the way things used to be. Do you know what I mean? Are you sticking around for a few quiet pints or what's your crack? Look, there's one thing I've learned, Kieran, in my illustrious career with beverages, okay? There's no such thing as quiet pints. There's no loud pints. There's no summer pints. There's no cheeky pints. There's no Thursday pints. They're all just pints. Delicious. Creamy. This is a paid advertisement brought to you by BetterHelp Therapy Online. Guys, it's hard to believe summer is over, and in a few months I will be a married man. Now, lest I descend into the illusion that life will just be a walk in the park thereafter, I do think it's important to check in on myself when things get busy and to keep an eye on the old head. Regular listeners to this podcast or readers of my book will know that I'm extremely passionate when it comes to opening up about our struggles and asking for help before things get to a crisis stage. For years, I let things build up internally and would only ever talk about stuff when it got bad. Nowadays, going to therapy helps me find balance in aspects of my life that I never knew I could before. So, if you're interested in starting therapy but don't know where to start, perhaps give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. Just fill out a short questionnaire and they'll match you with one of their therapists. Rediscover your curiosity at betterhelp.com/Mehigan and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Mehigan, MEHIGAN. Now, guys, here we are. Look, I hope you're enjoying the weekly roast. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening and for coming on this little, I won't say journey again. That's twice in one podcast. It's far too much for any podcast, really. Thank you, though. I do really, I do hugely appreciate it. It's a stressful time with the wedding. I'm not going to lie. Weddings, I know we'll get into it here on myself and yourself in another episode, but I'm really feeling the stress at the moment, and work is an excellent escape. So thank you for your involvement in the podcast. Now, that's the little sentimentality, earnestness out of the way. You're going to have to put down your food, okay? You're going to have to walk outside. If you're on a packed Lewis, I suspect you should cough into your sleeve when listening to this, because this next section isn't pretty. I don't enjoy this. This is not my sort of humour. This is not the type of toilet stuff that I want us to discuss in the future of the podcast, but for the sake of transparency, we have to have it. This isn't even a willy willy bum bum section. This is just a grotesque example of man and how we really are as an animal, once left to our own devices. That wasn't phrased well, but you know what I mean. Basically, brace yourself. This next section is unpleasant. On we go.
Hi Mark, just seeing your post about infuriating people you work with. Really quickly, a colleague in our office, an open plan, very busy office, has been there for years, and everyone knows her as the girl who blows her nose and puts her used tissues either in her desk drawer or on the top tray of the printer, the feeder that pops out. Yep, every single day. Like, beyond depraved.
Okay. Firstly, myself and Kieran, as two guys who grew up as male teenagers in Ireland, you become quite the expert at hiding used tissues. Let's not lie. The summer I discovered masturbation, I think I was 14, pretty late apparently. The summer I discovered masturbation was probably the first point in my life when I gained a true understanding of the mechanics of time. In the sense that, once I discovered it, time didn't represent, minutes anymore. It was just how many wanks per hour. Do you know what I mean? Mum's gone to get her hair done, 90 minutes. Okay, so that's 90 minutes. Probably could do 3 with the break, all the rest. That was the way my life was thereafter. So in terms of tissue hiding, you do become quite the... I sort of would have gone for under the mattress, between the mattress and the bed, and let them build into little sugar loaf Kleenex. This is... Oh, God. Okay, so yeah, this is horrible. Also, was she one of those people that put the tissue up her sleeve? Because I've made this point before, but I have a theory that once you're carrying a tissue up your sleeve, that is the sort of formal crossing of the river of life, like a wildebeest migration, into a different era of existence. You are now old. That's it. You're now old. Once you're carrying a used tissue up your sleeve, doesn't matter what age you are now old. You can now wear polo necks in the high summer and ill-fitting cardigans. That's the game. On we go.
A guy that currently works with me and I had heard this before, that he did this. He has a little jar beside his PC on the desk, and he puts little scrap bits of paper and sellotape and silly bits of rubbish into it. But he also rolls his snots all day, every day, and puts them into this jar. So the jar is a combination of sellotape, paper, and snots. It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, that is disgusting. I'd resign. I would have a meeting with HR, listen to their lies for half an hour where they pretend to care about the employee instead of the company. And then I would send a email to my line manager in writing and go, "Hi, Declan. Or Deirdre, by the way, lest the pitchforks be presented up my arse again. Placed, rather, or positioned." But like, I would just email my line manager and I'd just say, "Hi, Sarah, listen, I think I'm going to have to resign." Why is that? Well, because the guy sitting beside me has a jar of mucus. And we don't work in the fucking Kleenex factory. He's not the chief Kleenex tester. Do you know what I mean? We gave that job to Mark Mehigan when he was 14. But we had to fire him for gross misconduct. Those little sordid mountains he was building. Like the most depressing version of the Himalayas. Smells like glue. No. Disgusting, depraved, derangement. That was a long one. On we go.
I once worked with a guy, Mark, that used to hawk into the bin, like properly think like Titanic, proper hawking into the waste paper bin, and left it there for the cleaner to clean it on more than one occasion. Blech.
I think we can all agree, Heather, we weren't thinking about the Titanic. Do you know, in that, Captain, Fatberg ahead. Look, we've all heard of the Hawk Tua girl, okay? So now it's time for the Hawk Bin Boy from Offaly. Do you know what I mean? It's pretty much the exact same thing, except for instead of a young, ebullient blonde girl from Tennessee, we've got Keith from Belmont, who spits in bins and uses cucumber face wipes from Boots to clean his arse as a treat after he gets the runs. Do you know what I mean? Keith's attempts at personal hygiene include briefly rubbing shower gel across his genitals in the shower every fortnight and going for a Christmas haircut in December. Do you know what I mean? Keith's idea of self-care is just back-to-back wanks while watching Kelly Brook compilations on X-Hamster. Look, spitting in bins. Yeah, what are you up to? That's bananas. Keith, you're going to have to go to HR again. This is derangement. Spitting into bins. Stop that. Stop what you're doing. And the hawking. Good God. Anybody that does that in any capacity, unless you've got a chest infection, long COVID, or any form of illness, itis, what have you, then it's totally unacceptable. Unless you're literally Noel Brown inspecting a TB sanatorium in 1952, okay? Hawking should not exist in society. Rest in peace, Noel Brown. A pioneer. Let's go.
Okay, so this guy that used to work with me, he one morning showed up and before work was clipping his toenails with like a full-on toenail clipper at his desk. And he, like, obviously when people realised what was happening, was told pretty quickly to stop because it was completely bizarre and unprofessional. And he didn't really take that too well at all. And was kind of shocked apparently that he wasn't allowed to clip his toenails at his desk at work. But anyways, there were a good few other weird things that he did, but that's the only one I can remember. He got let go pretty soon after.
Yeah, totally fair enough. On your bike, off you go into the night. I mean, look, better that he was using the toenail clippers than the company scissors or his two front teeth, but still totally socially unacceptable, you know? I just, feets and penises, I put them in the same bracket. You know, don't produce unless very much requested, like. Just leave both where they belong. Leave them concealed in public. Feet and penises should mostly be concealed. Do you know? No, always. Well, yeah. Just a little bit of a wibbly thing at the top. Just in the summer, just a bit of foreskin for the wind. You know what I mean? Just if it's breezy. No, this is, look, the next two in this section are worse again. These little four were just sort of surface level accoutrement disgusting boys, okay? The last two boys in this section are behemoths of disgust, of foul things. Well said. Let's go.
Hi, Mark. I used to work with a guy who sat in front of me, and like, he'd roll up his shirt and then like stick his finger in his belly button and kind of twirl it around.
Ugh.
It was disgusting. Like, he picked his nose as well, but the belly button tipped me over the edge.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like, look, it's just putting your finger in places that you shouldn't, isn't it? You know, putting your finger in places that you shouldn't. A biography by read to you by Terry Wogan. That's not bad. That's not a bad Wogan, that. Read to you by Terry Wogan. Putting your finger in places that you shouldn't. A biography by read to you by Terry Wogan. Chapter 1. Hey kid, want to be an actor? Do you know what I mean? That's not bad. Are you good at impressions?
No, God, no.
That was okay. I think I can do an okay Christopher Walken, you know the
Yeah.
Well, I
Twisting anyway.
twisted my arm, Kieran. Two mice, Frankie, fell into a bowl of cream. One mouse today, no? Two mice fell into a bowl of cream. One mouse churned the cream into butter. Not bad.
That's good.
Oh, for fucking tough crowd. Let's go. Let's get back to the more serious matters, like people smearing shit on the fucking walls. Let's go.
Basically, I work with these two lads, right? And they go to the gym before work, come in, have a shower then before they start work, right? Grand. So I work on a floor of maybe, 60, 70, 80 people. And there's only, I think, one shower in our shower room where the toilets are either on the floor. Anyway, it's kind of irrelevant. So the lads have been saying, like, politely that the smell in the shower was like absolutely horrific. So there was, I think, 3 guys that were using the shower, and the first guy would use the shower, then the next guy would go in, and he'd say the smell was like absolutely pungent, like horrific. He'd have a shower, do what he needs to do, come out, the third guy go in. So yeah, the third guy go in, and he'd even say that the smell was still horrific by the time he go in there, even though someone had showered in between. So anyway, they were talking about it in work, and I was like, what is the smell like? And they were trying to be polite, and they were just like, oh, it's fairly rough or whatever. And I was like, well, is it BO or what? Like, had to draw it out of them. So eventually they were like, no, it's like a smell of shit. And we were like, what? We were like, absolutely no way. There couldn't be that smell of shit off someone. And they were like, no, we think he's taking a shit in the shower.
No.
Plus they also said that the grate from the outlet of the shower was always lifted. So they reckon he was shitting straight into the grate and the smell just wasn't going away. So even after all day, windows open and everything, there'd still be a pungent smell of shit in the shower. That is absolutely horrific.
Oh, firstly, I love the way you say, I had to draw it out of them. Like you're sort of the Jessica Fletcher of feces, do you know what I mean? Or Nancy Pooh, or incidentally, Father Brown. Look, this story for me began as a tale of 3 men showering together, to conserve time and privacy before work. A love story from the commute, perhaps, from the Lewis to the Lewes. Clandestine, morning, water-dripped shagging before HR got involved and one of you had to delete your LinkedIn. That's what I was expecting. I was expecting a love story here. Instead, we've been presented with a vigilante dump doer and a graphic snapshot into the workings of a damaged frontal lobe. Do you know what I mean? Surely, by the way, it takes more effort to get down on all fours and remove the shower grate than just use the toilet. You don't need to, this sort of like Gollum, the shower rat, you know what I mean? Getting down on all fours and doing dumps into the shower grate. These are the actions of somebody who is definitely not adjusting well to modern society. This is a person who has potentially been raised by Romanian wolves on the outskirts of a mountain village. Do you know what I mean? And then they've just been captured by a camera crew, and forced to get a job in Grand Canal Dock. Do you know what this is? This is Tom Hanks on his first day back in FedEx HQ after being cast away for 4 years on an island. Chuck, would you mind coming in here for a sec? Sure, Hal. Everything okay? Chuck, you're going to have to put the fish back in the koi pond, please. We have a canteen, man. You're going to have to, like, if you're hungry, you could. By the way, you're going to have to also cut down on the 17 wanks a day. You're not alone on an island anymore, Chuck. Susan from HR has been in touch, and she's got a nephew called Wilson, so that makes her even more uncomfortable. Chuck, we're going to have to ask you to stop barking randomly throughout the afternoon. This is good luck. Good luck, Chuck. On we go. This is a paid advertisement brought to you by BetterHelp Therapy Online. Guys, it's hard to believe summer is over, and in a few months I will be a married man. Now, lest I descend into the illusion that life will just be a walk in the park thereafter, I do think it's important to check in on myself when things get busy and to keep an eye on the old head. Regular listeners to this podcast or readers of my book will know that I'm extremely passionate when it comes to opening up about our struggles and asking for help before things get to a crisis stage. For years, I let things build up internally and would only ever talk about stuff when it got bad. Nowadays, going to therapy helps me find balance in aspects of my life that I never knew I could before. So, if you're interested in starting therapy but don't know where to start, perhaps give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. Just fill out a short questionnaire and they'll match you with one of their therapists. Rediscover your curiosity at betterhelp.com/Mehigan and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Mehigan, MEHIGAN. Okay, guys, it's the final section. Your insufferable, unbearable, infuriating colleagues are receiving their final roasting. Again, thank you so much for all the support. Really appreciate it. To everybody who's been reading the book of late, I do appreciate that also. Let's go, guys. It's the final section.
So I worked with a guy who had 10 to 12 cats, no exaggerating, and 2 dogs. For ages in the office, we could get this really bad smell of like damp dog. We couldn't figure out what it was. Got Rent-A-Kill in and everything, thinking it was a dead rodent somewhere. Turns out your man was taking the Henry Hoover home every Friday after we all left the office to hoover all his animal hair. And we only copped it when the cleaner had done her rounds one morning and we realised it was coming from the hoover. Opened the hoover to discover a bag full of dog and cat hairs.
Do you want to hear my thesis on this?
Please.
Or my theory, rather, is that pets are exactly like piercings, okay? Any more than 3 and that's when you're slipping into pervert territory. Genuinely. Think about it. People that have 2 dogs, lovely, wholesome, family orientated, welcoming, caring, overflowing with love. 3, a bit chaotic, but still exciting, maybe reckless, but always up for a laugh and definitely keen on having a fun home. 4, swingers. Sexually subversive loons, fans of witchcraft, unclean house, probably smokers. You know, they kiss their dogs on the lips. Fans of game shows during the day and eating weed brownies. 4 pets is, same applies for piercings, by the way. If you've got the nose pierced and the ears, fine, perfectly normal. If you've got the nose, the lip, the eyebrows and the ears, you may as well be auditioning for a porn movie. Because there is a gulf between 3 and 4. Sorry, back to the animals. 4 live animals in your house and it becomes a barn. Why not just recreate the whole nativity? Do you know what I mean? Throw in a few fucking shepherds as well. Call old MacDonald and have a party. That's when you've lost your mind. Interesting about the calling the pest control. Do you want to hear a story?
Oh, go on.
This is a good one now. My father, right, when he was 18 years of age, or no, it would have been 20 or something, studying for his university exams. I can't name the company, but they are still active today in Dublin as probably the most well-renowned pest control company. There was talk of there being, they noticed some rat droppings in their house, right? My dad is at home studying for his summer exams of university, final exams. He knows rat droppings. They got these people out. They're like, yeah, you're grand. We've inspected. We've searched the house high and low. There's nothing there, nothing to worry about. Grand. One day, my dad takes a break in his studying in his room. At least he called it was studying. Adding to the tissue mountain. Takes a break from studying. Lies down in his bed for a snooze. Wakes up with a rat on his chest. Swear to God. A rat on his chest. Literally freaked through the duvet, jumps out of the bed, starts screaming blue murder. They get somebody else back in. They move back the chest of drawers in his room, and there is a nest of rats. To this day, if that company gets named, my dad's like, complete cowboys, crooks, those fellas, they're... Isn't that outrageous? That is, last but not least, I'm sorry for those of you with rat phobias. A friend of mine's dad, I remember telling a friend of mine's dad this story. He grew up in Belfast. They were playing football on the green. Nothing to do with being from Belfast. But they were playing football on the green. As kids, the ball goes into the bush. He reaches in to get it. Rat bites him on the arm. They had to drown the rat in the river beside the field and bring him to the hospital with the rat still stuck to his arm.
What?
Yeah, because apparently once the rats claw down, they don't release unless.
No way.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. Now, let's clean this up a little bit. Let's go somewhere a little bit more pleasant with the podcast. On we go.
So I'll give you the best one yet. I was in work one day and we have about 6 staff on site, and a male staff member went into the toilet and obviously went for a shit and got his hand and basically got his feces and spread it all over the walls in the staff bathroom. And came back out as if nothing had happened. Other staff had to clean the bathroom, and he actually got a new job, and the manager was aware of what had happened. She was on site as well, and she gave him a glowing reference for shitting on the walls.
Okay, well, this voice note was a sonic nightmare and something they could probably use in the Irish equivalent of Guantanamo. What the hell is going on there? Did anyone see the Bobby Sands documentary last night on Channel 4? Did I what? Wait until you go into the Jacks and have a look. Man, we've spoken about this, Keith. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep just recreating the movies that you liked. What's going to happen when you watch Saltburn? Do you know what I mean? We've only just gotten the flower bed put in the memorial garden for Aunt Rita. This is completely, you know what I mean? We've had to spend $8,000 on physio after you watched The Matrix when that came out. Let's go.
Also, my manager licks the arse of one of my colleagues so good that she doesn't even have to buy toilet roll to wipe her arse. And then that staff member goes off and bitches behind that manager's back, and the poor manager doesn't have a clue. And she is licking her arse nearly up inside her.
I've never heard somebody make R sound like it has 3 syllables. Like, R. It's like she went SH then back to the hard S. It was like, R. A very unpleasant description, to be brutally honest with you. Like the opposite of ASMR, whatever that is it. Disgusting. Now, on we go. Almost last, very much not least. Let's go.
So I worked with a nurse in Dublin, in a Dublin hospital. Used to do quite a lot of nights, and she was always on kind of fad diets. So she was on a cabbage soup diet one week. So every night she used to bring in this cabbage soup. The smell can only be described as a cross between a really bad gastro tummy bug, diarrhea type infection, or somebody dying. It was absolutely rancid. And the consultant came in the following morning to do ward rounds at about 6 o'clock in the morning, whereby he smelt the cabbage soup and the smell of flatulence in the ward, where she blamed one of the patients for the smell, and a patient ended up having to send stool samples to the lab and ended up in isolation for 24 hours while they figured out what was wrong with him. Obviously nothing wrong with him. So yeah, that was her. Okay, bye.
Okay, first things first, I will never ridicule anybody for frantically trying to lose weight. Lord knows. I actually found myself Googling Ozempic dealers Dublin recently with the wedding coming up. But cabbage soup, who invented that diet? Roald Dahl? Do you know what I mean? The Charlie Bucket beach bods. Like, a few questions here. Firstly, it's just disgusting. It's disgraceful. It's unforgivable. Secondly, I feel like it's a knee-jerk response from the hospital. Do you know what I mean? Oh, Gramps has a bit of flatulence. Time to put him in the chokey for 2 weeks. No visitors or calls. Like, were there no other options? Were there Burner just let one rip after dinner, lump him into a hole in the back garden there. Do you know what I mean? Like, give the guy a chance to explain himself. This, it's just disgusting. And cabbage soup, come on. Oh, were they sold out of gruel? Was Fagin not serving soup from his fucking pockets? No, it's an Oliver reference from my thespians. Let's go. Last and not least, the final one of the roast.
Hiya, Mark. Yeah. So I used to work with this girl, and when we would usually work from home, but then we used to go in, and so one day we were in the office, like the team, and we were sitting there, and it was kind of getting to that 3 o'clock kind of slump time, and it was deathly quiet, and next thing, I could just hear the. So I kind of looked around, and I looked over, and there she was, asleep, head cocked back, like her feet didn't really touch the ground from her chair, so they were kind of cocked out, and the head back, snoring.
What sort of cartoon sheriff do you work with? Do you know what I mean? Or like Shmee from Captain Hook with the little legs. Like this. You genuinely have just described, a sheriff in a cartoon. Like, does she have a big ring of keys attached to her belt that 2 jailbirds are trying to fish from her waistline with a rod they've constructed using paper straws? Do you know what I mean? Leaning back in her chair. These cartoon sheriffs that always happen to fall asleep, leaning back in their chair with the ring of keys swinging from the belt. The radio is playing a baseball game in the background. There happens to be a tiny little feather at the end of their nose. And with every big... it goes up in the air and then comes back down and lands on it, and each time it sort of half tickles their nostrils, and the guys in the cell are like, oh fuck. Do you know what I mean? This is just like more snorting in that voice note than a South Dublin pub. Brilliant, Mark. Cannibalising your own, you dirty sanctimonious bastard. Look, this is insane. And then the whole pretending to have fainted every time she's fallen asleep. Yeah, it's genius. Like, it's completely genius. I understand she was bored inside the board meeting. Snooze you win, it turns out. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the Weekly Roast. Hugely appreciate it, as always. If you're enjoying the show, send me a message on Instagram. Let me know which parts of it you enjoyed. If there's any that you didn't, or if there's any that you feel needs improvement, let me know as well. If you have any suggestions for the future of the show, get in touch. At Mehigan Mark on Instagram. The greatest repayment you can repay for enjoying the podcast is by leaving a nice rating and or sharing it with one of your friends. Get them on the board, the train of the Weekly Roast. Guys, really appreciate it. Look after yourselves, and I'll speak to you very soon. Take care. This is a paid advertisement brought to you by BetterHelp Therapy Online. Guys, it's hard to believe summer is over, and in a few months I will be a married man. Now, lest I descend into the illusion that life will just be a walk in the park thereafter, I do think it's important to check in on myself when things get busy and to keep an eye on the old head. Regular listeners to this podcast or readers of my book will know that I'm extremely passionate when it comes to opening up about our struggles and asking for help before things get to a crisis stage. For years, I let things build up internally and would only ever talk about stuff when it got bad. Nowadays, going to therapy helps me find balance in aspects of my life that I never knew I could before. So, if you're interested in starting therapy but don't know where to start, perhaps give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. Just fill out a short questionnaire and they'll match you with one of their therapists. Rediscover your curiosity at betterhelp.com/Mehigan and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Mehigan, MEHIGAN.